Didn't have much
year.
to begin with, too.
Right. So, you're going from like a small to very, very little.
Matthew Berry's gotten slower.
Yeah.
That's what you're telling me.
Yeah. Oh, come on. He's got to step on Matthew.
No, you're right. You're right. We all do.
But he, the twice reconstructed ACL, and then he had that issue last year, and he could never come back, and the knee was never quite right. So we don't. If you thought he could be functional on the field, but I think he's functional in that way: hand off the ball, short passes, and that is what favors David Johnson and potentially Larry Fitzgerald to me. So at least I know what I'm getting. I don't really know what I'm going to get with Josh Rosen.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky to figure this one out. Just like I was thinking about this with Cleveland as well, right? Tyrod Taylor, I'm on the, speaking of Mina Kimes, by the way, we're on the Tyrod Taylor bandwagon. Like him a lot. I think that offense can be fine with him, but
it's Tyrod, by the way. Our friend Jim Trotter tweeted.
Tyrod.
He said Tyrod. Yeah, Tyrod.
Well,
right.
Jim Trotter tweeted about them asking his agent, who asked his mom or something, and he said Tyrod.
Okay, so it's Tyrod now, just to make things more confusing.
That's not what I saw this morning. Anyway,
I saw it this morning.
Mr. Taylor, nonetheless. I think they would be fine with him. But it would still probably be good if Baker beat him out, or pretty quickly forced his way in the field. It would be good for the whole offense. I think you could say that about the Jets as well. They could be serviceable with Josh McCown. But if Darnold proves way better, that's good for the offense. I think it's the same thing here. They can be somewhat serviceable with Sam Bradford playing a conservative game, 7.3 career average depth of throw. Only Alex Smith is higher than that, very conservative. But if Josh Rosen comes in, proves to clearly be the better guy, moves the needle for the offense, that would obviously be tremendous for them. But again, it's kind of interesting. Rosen, very conservative as well, 8.1 average depth of throw last season. Low relative to this class, very low, and actually struggled with interceptions considering he was very conservative.
And that's
which is
the thing that
interesting.
makes you think, well, as he's starting out, he's probably going to play more conservatively. So I don't know until he got more confidence that you would see that really even open up. But it's just the uncertainty that's scary. I'd rather have a few games with Sam Bradford and let Josh Rosen continue to develop. If anyone's listening over in Arizona or cares what I think.
On the plus side, you have Larry Fitzgerald, you have David Johnson, both short area targets.
Right.
So that's all just be accurate, right? Just throw short, get the ball to those two guys, we'll be happy.
Just for the record, I'm still down the Tyrod versus Tyrod Taylor rabbit hole.
I saw you disappear
Tyrod
there.
apparently said to his, hey, his mom calls him that, and told a Browns PR staffer that that's what he goes by.
Tyrod.
Meanwhile, Jim Trotter, or as we said, one of our former colleagues here, said that he spoke to the agents of Taylor, and they said that his parents call him Tyrod. So again, I have no idea. This is going to be our Alvin Kamara for 2018. Kamara.
Yeah.
T. Taylor. Doesn't he have a nickname? What's his nickname?
T-Mobile.
T-Mobile it is going forward. All right, David Johnson, let's move along to that because that's far more important. I don't think it's worth, really nitpicking too. I'm not going to take you that far to task, Stephania, but you do have him as the number one player in fantasy this year.
I do. And I think we always talk about opportunity. The more opportunity you have, the more chance you have to put points on the board. And I think, all of these guys are going to have, in the top three, are going to have their share of opportunity. I just like what David Johnson can do with he's a tackle breaker. He's a physical player, not afraid to run through people. He's got fresh legs after sitting out for a whole year. And he doesn't have a lot of competition for target share. I mean, he's as much of a tier 1 pass catcher in that short intermediate range as any receiver on that field. Excuse me. I'm getting verklempt over David Johnson.
Verklempt. I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
Saturday Night Live, a little too old for field. Am I right? Help me out, guys.
Dana Carey, right? Verklempt?
No, it wasn't Dana Carey. It was Wayne's World.
Dana Carvey.
No, not Dana Carvey. It was Wayne's World.
Mike Myers.
Mike Myers. So the memory is fading a little bit. But in any case, that's my argument for David Johnson. I made it 1,000 times.
Mike, I think the argument for David Johnson is the same one as Le'Veon Bell. The two most likely candidates to lead the NFL in touches this year would be those two players.
No question. I think Johnson's definitely top three. I have no problem with Stephania putting him number one overall. The guy was over 2,100 scrimmage yards with 20 touchdowns on almost 400 touches when we last saw him. And by the way, he was by far fantasy's top running back. He averaged 4.2 yards per carry 1.6 after contact. Not too good. I mean, that efficiency is nothing crazy. It's not like Gurley last year was off the charts or Kamara off the charts in terms of efficiency. It was just pure volume, and there's no question he's going to get that again this season.
Although I do think that this year, more so than any other year previously, they have a belief in a backup running back in Arizona. Chase Edmonds, their fourth-round pick out of Fordham, is a promising player. Not that I think it really not that I'm at 3 again, but just if you're splitting hairs between Le'Veon Bell and Todd Gurley and David Johnson, that's one of the metrics you might consider. All right, this is a question that comes from Twitter. What do we got here? Keith?
Actually, we've decided to skip this Twitter question as well.
All right. Moving along to Larry Fitzgerald, the ageless wonder, Mr. Dependable, one of the, if not the most consistent player in the NFL since being drafted many, many years ago. We've got him at wide receiver 11 in terms of our consensus ranks. I'm not sure there's much to say here. He turns 35 on August 31st, Mike, but maybe at some point Father Time catches up to him. He strikes me as a player, though, that might walk away from the game when he's still playing at a very high level.
Yeah, I was wondering if he's actually getting younger.
Yeah,
here, because
he's
last
the
season,
Benjamin Button.
Exactly, 29% target share last season, his highest since 2011. He was on the field for 98% of their pass plays, which is a crazy high number for any player. His highest since 2012. Third straight top 11 fantasy season last year. We continue to rank him too low in fantasy. We've been assuming we're going to see his age for years, and he's a value again this year. Another guy I drafted last night.
This is.
I was just going to say, consider, you talk about how much he's on the field, and he never misses games. The last time he missed games, 2 games in 2014. And you can't find another time that he's missed games.
This is entirely anecdotal, but as somebody who rostered Larry Fitzgerald last year, there are times where you just get frustrated by the usage of a player. Kareem Hunt was an example last year where it was like, why is he not getting the ball more? It always felt like it went one of two ways for Larry Fitzgerald last season. He either crushed it on the opening couple of drives and was already, money in the bank by the time the first quarter was over. Or if Arizona had, for some reason, not targeted him in the first half, they immediately reminded themselves like, okay, we're losing. Right. We probably should throw the football to number 11 more. Let's force the issue and get the ball in his hands.
And not afraid to go across the middle. He will bail out his quarterback, which is why I think he helps either quarterback who stepped. My only concern is if one of them tries to get creative and veer away from the 2 most reliable guys there in David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald.
An ideal segue to figure out who the other players are available because, Mike, we had this conversation with Seattle just a minute ago. If it's not Penny/Carson or Doug Baldwin, who is it? In Arizona, if it's not Larry Fitzgerald, is there anybody that you feel confident in?
I think you can take the late round stab on Christian Kirk. Very interesting rookie this season they take early on. He's 5'10", 200, ran a 4.47 40. My concern there is Fitz is the slot man. I mean, I don't think that's going to change. He's mostly inside, has dominated inside. Last year, Christian Kirk lined up in the slot 94% of the time, so they're going to have to get kind of creative with him. Maybe they like him on the perimeter. I think he potentially could play out there, but we saw a guy like Nelson Aguilar. He just couldn't hang on the perimeter in Philadelphia. It took him a few seasons before he moved inside it and really blew up. So I think he could be worth a late-round flyer. Nonetheless, we'll see how he converts to the NFL. Brice Butler, always been an apologist. I've liked him since his first preseason game at the Raiders many years ago. Made that crazy touchdown catch in the back of the end zone. Always been following him. Wasn't used enough in Dallas. He's a flyer as well. Don't forget Chad Williams, too. They took him in the 3rd round last season. He's another guy in that mix there.
Yeah, Grambling standout. What do you got, Daniel?
I'm just curious. Coming out of the draft, I just felt like there was so much hype about Christian Kirk in this offense, and it just feels like it's totally died. I mean, am I wrong in thinking that he was supposed to be the number 2 guy in this offense, and that's what everyone was talking about, and it's just disappeared?
I wonder if part of it is this, and I'll just be candid here, and this maybe I'm off the mark. Think about the teams that we hear about a ton right now: New York Jets, New York Giants, Philadelphia Eagles, New England Patriots, Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay Packers. Some of it is just you go to a training camp in Green Bay, and Stefan, you can attest to this. There's 20 reporters and cameramen and women and all these people there that are covering it, and the content is so saturated. It's a different market in Arizona that maybe they're just less exposure because there's just not as much volume of coverage out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to dot connect where there's no dots to connect, but I do wonder sometimes if that's part of how things are being, how we are processing information. I know when we went to Chargers camp, that was something that shined through. He's it's Los Angeles, but they're in Costa Mesa. I learned a lot more about I learned a lot about the Chargers because I just had a chance to actually see them.
Right. I think to some degree that's true. And I've been to the Cardinals camp even when they were, it was right when Carson Palmer was coming back from that second ACL tear. And it still felt like that. Like I had to go there to really see and learn more about it. There wasn't much chatter.
No,
they were better.
And the people that are covering it are doing they're doing a great job. It's just that
volume.
I've gotten 18 write-ups on Riley McCarron out of Patriots training camp because there are 30 outlets covering him every single day.
Well, and when you start getting buzz, the 49ers with all the new people they have and what happened at the end of last season and with the coaching and front office shifts, all of a sudden there's more interest. So now there's a volume of people covering the 49ers that were not there a few years ago.
I would say the reason is a list of players. DJ Moore, Michael Gallup, Chris Godwin, Calvin Ridley, John Ross, Anthony Miller, James Washington, Cortland Sutton, Mike Williams, Keelan Cole, Antonio Callaway. So many high upside young wide receivers in the late rounds. You just throw them in a basket and pick one out. We don't know who's going to hit, who's going to convert to the NFL well, who's going to be better in their second season. You just have a big pot to pick from. I think he's in that pot for sure. But all it's going to take is one report, right? He's killing it. He looks like he's going to be the 2, and then the hype's going to go nuts.
All right, Mike took a much more practical approach to a fantasy football question.
Took the other angle. That's all.
Any interest in Ricky Seals-Jones? Is your throw tight end?
I don't know if he's going to be able to crack the top 12. Remember, he averaged 8 pass routes a game last season down the stretch. He wasn't really playing a lot, so still a lot to prove there. More of a two tight end league guy.
Yeah, and remember, college wide receiver. He's still got something to learn there at that tight end spot.
Massive upside for sure.
Not saying to draft him. I would just encourage you to read the story about random acts of kindness from Jermaine Gresham, the other Cardinals tight end.
Yes.
Just a
great
neat story. Jermaine Gresham has done a lot of good when no one was looking, and not for attention or adulation, just because.
And shout out to Josh Weinfuss for putting that together.
Yeah, his career's almost over, and we're just learning about all this.
About that?
Unreal. Yeah.